Hello. Hello. Um, I have my friend Ashley here crashing with us today. I'll explain in a minute. I'm so excited to be talking about today. I know every friggin' Zoom I say that, but this has come up so much today. And beyond the fact that it's one of my favorite topics to talk about, it's also one of my favorite topics to be a realist about. And you're not going to get a lot of, can't hear us. I'm not unmuted. I'm not
Who else?
muted.
Can anyone else not hear us? Oh, I can hear.
Okay,
Oh.
cool. All right, awesome. So iPhone, I don't know who you are, and I'm sorry, but okay,
No,
cool. All
okay.
right, we're all good. Okay, so I really like being a realist about this topic. There's not going to be a whole lot of fluff. Like I would be happy to do a very woo-woo centered kind of topic for today, but on a different day. But today we're going to keep it rooted in mindset, right? We're going to keep it something that's tangible, something that whether you believe in this stuff, whether you don't, whatever the case may be, it's gonna, my hope is that it'll make sense regardless in practice and be useful. Okay. So Ash, I have Ash on here today because Ash knows me when we were both like ogres of people. Like I say all the time, I was not always a positive person. I was not always like optimistic, looking for the different way to use things as information. Like that wasn't me. And I'm always, whenever I say that, my clients are like, no way. So I'm like, we got a witness. Ash remembers me back in the day.
And I was just as bad.
And I remember you. Yeah. You were like the hype man for it. You were like, yeah, screw them all. Like,
forget everybody.
So
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ash, can I give the cliff notes?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So also besides that, when we say we're both different now, when we had first become friends, Ash was in a pretty toxic relationship with a sociopath.
Yeah, we can call us.
Yeah. And I don't use that lightly. So and then engaged to said person, and then broke up the engagement with said person and began a journey of healing, and now owns her own copywriting firm and is like living a life that like what? I mean, it's very much I relate, like, but I also think it's good to have that perspective, so I'm going to kick off with a question for Ash and then we'll get to the lesson. But how did you talk to yourself in the past? Especially, I know you've said you've dealt with body image, eating disorders, diet culture, everything. How did you talk to yourself back then versus how you talk to yourself now?
I think back then I'm going to say a curse word. It's going to be the S word. But I really used to just say, like, you are such a piece of shit. Like everything I did, like internally, I was like, you're a piece of shit. You suck. And like, I would actually verbalize outside and aloud say, oh my God, that sucks, or I suck, or you suck. And if you'll remember, a coach that we share in common, I don't recommend anybody else do this because everybody should take their time to feel feelings. But I was saying I suck so much that my coach at the time said every time I said I suck, I had to stop and do 3 burpees. So I stopped saying it pretty quickly.
You're like, nip that.
I'm not doing burpees, so that's not going to happen. And now I can say that when I look in the mirror, I love the person that I am. I've been many different sizes at this point, and no matter my size, I feel really good about who I am. I still have days where body dysmorphia is like playing little tricks on me, and I'm like, what is going on? But I can say I love myself. I feel confident in who I am. I feel confident in what I bring to the table. And I feel very happy and lucky to be me.
Yay.
Yeah.
And we were not like this.
No, oh my God, no, I wasn't like this. Are you kidding?
We thought it was part of our charm and charisma to just be like, just sticks in the mud.
Miserable.
Like just always expecting the worst.
Yeah.
And drinking usually too.
Oh my God, so much drinking.
Right. I also wine, you know, and because it was easy, a slippery slope. But
vodka. It was always vodka for me.
Oh, it was wine, why not add the carbs? So, okay, let's get into the lesson for today. So I want to talk about it because I mentioned before, today is not going to be about the mysticism of it. I can definitely talk about it, but today we're going to focus on the principle of whatever we embody is what we fulfill. So if we're trying to, I don't care how great your affirmations are, you can sit there and say them in the morning and run down this whole list of greatness. If you don't exercise that throughout the day. If you don't embody the type of person that would receive those things that you're trying to manifest or wish for or pray for, whatever it is, if you're not open to receiving that because you're fixed in one spot or you're afraid of bad outcome or whatever, which is very normal, like it's easier said than done to not feel that way, then the chances of you, abracadabra, say it in the morning and it comes true are pretty like slim to none. So I think a lot of times when I hear about law of attraction, and this is definitely the case for me back in the day, I used to roll my eyes at it because I used to think it was really dismissive. And I used to think it was just like delusional a little bit, I wasn't as open, like into the woo-woo kind of stuff, but just in general, it was part of my aesthetic to be annoyed by people who like that kind of stuff. And I really like embodied that, like, I end up in bad situations, I have bad luck, like all of that. That's what I just fed to myself. So something like law of attraction seemed ridiculous to me. So tell our story of how we came into know. Well, I think you knew it before me, but
No, I didn't.
no,
Same
it
time.
was same. Yep. So
Same
anyway,
time.
we both did a really, really cheesy, cringy MLM back in the day, like 2014, 2015 time period, right? So part of this was we were roped into it by this one like upline leader in the area, and I was just like miserable at my job and young, so I was just like, whatever, like let's see. And I feel like my upline, I'm gonna say this because she's a bad person, so I can say it, right? So I don't care if anyone hears this, but like she was dumb as bricks, just dumb as bricks, right? And I'm not somebody to like judge someone like that unless they're truly just not a nice person. But everything just kind of fell into place for her. Like she just
seemed to have it all.
She like snapped her fingers and something she wanted happened and wasn't set up for that. Like she didn't grow up in a life like that, like silver spoon or anything like that. So
she had like a very abusive mother. She has a crazy upbringing.
So I related to her a lot with that, and stuff. And so I just leveled with her. I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like we have the same education level right now, like all of this stuff. How does this happen? Like, can you sprinkle some of your luck dust on me? Because I don't understand. And I had my uppity attitude of like, I'm a hard worker. I am smart, and she goes, honestly, it's law of attraction. She told me to watch The Secret, which I found, I'm sorry if you like The Secret. I find it so cringe, especially about the medical claims. Like that immediately pissed me off that I could just wish away my diabetes, So I was like, no, this isn't going to do it. And then I realized I'm like, but hey, I don't have to be like all in. Like I don't have to be cheesy and cringy about it. But if I'm thinking about the principle of it, true to fashion, I needed to mull it over myself first. Couldn't take anyone's word for it. Is that astrological in some way?
Yeah. Capricorn. It's okay.
So I mulled it over and I'm like, what do I have to lose? Miserable and don't got anything. Maybe I won't be miserable and maybe I'll have a little more, or maybe at the very least I won't be miserable, So it was a win-win. I thought of it like I was going to try it out like an experiment. It was like literally, I'm like, let's see because if this doesn't work, I'm going to go back to being a mean ogre. Right. Like that's the better alternative,
I did the same shit though.
I know.
I was like, this probably isn't going to work, but whatever.
So, for me, what it did was bring to my attention how much I actively was stunting my own growth every single day with verbiage. Is it verbiage or verbiage?
It's both, I think. It's like a tomato kind of thing. I have
heard it and said it both ways and feel dumb either way, but not really. Verbiage, that's what we're going to go with. I realized that my internal dialogue, the way I spoke to others, the way I spoke about things that were coming up, just my natural vernacular became rooted in nastiness towards myself and the future, or fear, or not wanting to get ahead of myself. Like I didn't even understand how much I spoke into existence. The very thing I was judging as complete crap, I spoke into existence the very misery I sought to escape. Now, I didn't do that for no reason. that misery, that fear, that all that wasn't there just because like I pulled that one out of a hat one day. Like there's a lot of reasons we all have that internal dialogue, and a lot of events, a lot of, illnesses, just so many facets that lead us to that point of not talking to ourselves very well, and not speaking out positivity at all because it feels wrong. Does anyone relate to this so far? Or share with me in the chat, share with me your thoughts. What were your thoughts on law of attraction at first? How did you get into it?
Same way. Our upline was like, it was actually in a meeting, and she's like, everybody should do law of attraction. And
she goes, it's physics.
It's literally physics. She meant metaphysics, but like, bless her heart, she said it was physics. I went home and I watched the documentary on Netflix, and I was like, oh my God, you have to be kidding me. And I felt like it was so corny. But then I also, my thought was, if this asshole can do it and everything works out, and not that she was, but it's like, I felt that way even when I started my business, when I compared it to somebody else. Like, if this person can do this, I think that I could probably maybe do this. And like, let's just see what happens. And it was very much like Michelle. I was already so negative and so unhappy that like, it really didn't matter because nothing else probably was going to make life worse. Like, I was severely overwhelmed.
Eggplant parm dinner.
In a dead end relationship.
Can't find it.
No, you're good.
Eggplant parm dinner.
So you were in a dead end relationship.
Dead end relationship. Didn't really like myself. Hated my job. Was working my ass off, commuting on a crazy commute that I hated. 2 hours one way each day, active commute, like not even on a train or anything. Literally just miserable.
So does this look like a split screen? Oh my God, that's so funny. Someone sent me a private. No, we're in the same house.
No, we're here.
Sorry.
Sending it back to you in the studio.
That's hilarious. I just saw that message. I'm like,
so
you're
funny.
right.
It does. No, but I was just like literally miserable. I was so miserable. I hated my life. I hated my job. I hated my relationship. There wasn't really anything that I could pinpoint that I liked except for this weird MLM. And I was like, this is giving me hope. Maybe I'll make my millions this way. Like, I just need a way out of my terrible life. And if this girl is saying that all she does is this, I at least could try it and just see what's up.
Yeah. Wasn't like it was hurting or anything to be less miserable, you know? But tell me in the chat, you guys are quiet. Tell me your thoughts as you're hearing this. And by the way, tell me if you think it's like a load of crap, if you're still on the fence, if you're like, this is making sense. I've been targeted by positivity huns and I just can't stand it. Be honest, because it's important. You know, if I wasn't honest with myself about the trepidations I had about even thinking about this, then I would have just disregarded it, and I don't even know what life would be. Imagine if I didn't like grow it all from that. If Beth says that's always my thought too, if this person can do this, I totally can. Because there really is no reason not to, you know, like, okay, I mean, my dreams of like scaling Everest, like, I mean, I'm not gonna, you know? So if someone can do that, that's great for them. But if it's something that I can look at it and it's apples to apples in terms of, is there anything really outside of my control that distinguishes what's possible? Do I really want this to happen? Well, what's the harm in seeing? So let's see what you guys are saying here. I love it. I love it when I see things pop up here. I also went through a law of attraction phase and watched The Secret and read so many books, but I think I was too outrageous with it. Like, I'm going to make 100K this year and then did nothing to actually make it happen. We've all been there. Because I mean, like, what do you have to lose wishing for it, right? We all throw a penny in the wishing well, and, you know, so then I did not make 100K. But that's the thing. When it becomes throw a penny in a wishing well is when it doesn't work. That's why people kind of make it seem very easy to implement, and it's not. Like, it's really reprogramming a lot and healing through a lot of trauma and things that create the difficulty in thinking that way. You can't skip over that and just fill it with positivity. There's tons of toxic positivity out there that it's kind of like binging. You force yourself to like restrict, and you're going to binge. It wasn't a real like lifestyle change. It was just a diet. Kind of the same thing with fake positivity. We just fill ourselves up with that. And yeah, for a short period of time, we might trick ourselves into thinking this is better. But in the end, we end up just crashing and everything sucks and everything's falling apart because it wasn't real. You know, you got to start with that inner verbiage first. So great point. I feel like I've always done, maybe not so formally, but like, oh, this is always works out for me. And then I go forth. Yeah. If you go into it saying like, I can figure this out no matter what the outcome is, again, not easier said than done. And also neurodivergency is a thing. But if you think like things work out for me, I'll figure it out. Chances are, even if the outcome has to change a little from what you originally planned, you can figure it out, and it ends up working out. I love it. Does this have to do with the programming we get before we were 7 and the autopilot we live on? What do you mean?
Like,
I might be, if you're talking about something specific, I have no idea. But if you're saying as a concept that like we are just told that we can't be thinking like this past the age of 7, absolutely right. Like when does it go from you could be anything you want to be like, don't be ridiculous, taper your expectations, kid. It's like, is there an age for that? What size in clothing is that? But if there's something specific, I am missing it. Let me know, Beck. So I think she answered.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. It's a scientific theory that we are programmed to live, like, I forget what it's called. Ooh, that's interesting. I would love to read up on that. If you wouldn't mind shooting me a text with what that's called so I can deep dive. I love that stuff. Because like, who the hell knows, really? There's so much we haven't discovered. Okay, so scrolling. Okay, there's been research that optimism and gratitude lowers C-reactive proteins. So to an extent, I do feel like positive outlook helps us feel better. Absolutely. Which in turn helps us try more and do more. 100%. Something I really struggle with, and it's like, I'm gonna say it here, but it's something I could definitely elaborate more on the more woo-woo Zoom, is that something I resisted for a very long time was involving my health with law of attraction, because it was something I felt very defensive over and very protective over, like all of that time struggling where nobody understood and like didn't believe me and like all of that. How could I possibly let that go and just, ignore everything I know about actual physics and just biology and everything and just whatever. But then I started saying, well, if I do say and act and treat my health with law of attraction, like I have with everything else, in the worst case scenario, I'll probably feel less crappy about it. And the best case scenario, I'll feel better. And I'll, even if it doesn't do anything for the physicality of it, if I feel better mentally, then that's something off my plate as a sick person. Why not? I don't lose any points for that. So when I tell you I was diagnosed with scleroderma, it's supposed to have an 8-year life expectancy. I'm now at the point where like, I want to go back and contest a lot of my diagnoses, like my scleroderma, my RA. I mean, that could be denial because I'm in remission, of course, but that's what I want to figure out, because it's baffling, not just to me. And my rheumatologist last time they saw me was like they literally were like, you should be sicker than you are. They were just, they didn't understand. So I don't understand either. I mean, but I don't pin it all on law of attraction. I pin it on believing in myself to take care of myself, prioritizing not beating myself up, prioritizing the way I view rest and recovery and sickness and the unexpected. It's been a lot of work to get there, but law of attraction is not just the affirmations I say about my health. It's how I live out trying to make my health better every day, and what mindset supports that. I can't explain it. I mean, I never thought I'd be at the point where Nick and I really are looking to try and go have a baby. Like what? Like I used to think my whole rib cage would fall apart. I got a broken rib from packing boxes. Like it's just, and you saw that, a lot of you haven't, but some of you saw this house. I was demoing, we were both demoing this shit in here, so it was the best. It was a good workout. I'm not saying that I am the end all be all. Law of attraction made this possible, and I respect how annoying that sounds, and to someone who's dealt with these struggles for a really long time. But I can't help what I notice. And the last thing that I had to change talking to myself a certain way about was my health. And it's been a marked difference. So I love that. C-reactive protein, talking ourselves nicely. Who'd have thought? Certainly not eat less and move more.
No.
So I love Law of Attraction. I read The Secret in 2009-ish and was very invested, but I have gone through ups and downs of my beliefs on it, truly due to negative thinking or self-talk. We talk ourselves out of it, but like, not for nothing, I think that it becomes harmful when it's like, oh, I must have not tried hard enough to not attract that result. It could become, that's why you have to work on the inner verbiage first before Law of Attraction can be anything, because it's kind of like having like the wrong person at the helm. You don't want to have somebody who hates you in charge of all that power, right? You wouldn't want that outcome. So by working on that internal dialogue where you don't feel that need to like, bring yourself back down to reality, you really don't deserve better, this is what you should have expected. If that's still happening, Law of Attraction, it's not going to combat that, so good point. I agree, unrealistic positivity can cause issues for sure. And I think that's also, positivity doesn't always have to be happy. That is the biggest thing that never gets mentioned, is like, positivity should still allow room to feel bad about a bad situation. But the difference in optimism and pessimism in this thing is, one person will think of it and say, this is what always happens to me. I'm an idiot for letting this happen. I can't believe this happened. I should have known. I should have seen this coming. Why did I get excited? And the other person, the positive person, can still and should still be like, this really sucks. I wish that this didn't happen this way. But, now I know next time what to avoid. What can you do? I'm going to go home and take a bath, and it doesn't mean that you have to be completely resistant to the idea. Like most of you come to me looking to feel normal, right? I said this today on a call. It's one of my favorite things. Sometimes the most normal thing is to feel badly. It's something we're all trying to avoid, but we're human, and some things don't feel good. We're not going to feel good. I hate toxic positivity. It annoys the crap out of me. So this dude was dead in the middle of the street this morning. I don't think we always ask for situations that happen around us. I am so sorry that happened to you. That was a really jarring statement to read out loud with zero expression or emotion, but I would if I could. I agree. I don't think that anybody attracted that. I think that's just messed up that you had to witness that. But I agree. And not everything is orchestrated. We can only kind of orchestrate our own, like how we proceed. Mm-hmm. That's really
crazy.
scary. Message me about that if you haven't already. Okay, let's see. Definitely related to the automatic eye roll because of being targeted by the positivity huns that actually only made their dough because they have mommy and daddy's wallet on their nightstand. Absolutely. But when I look at it objectively, it makes sense that reframing the thoughts, actions in a more positive direction would yield more positive results. Berating myself just adds to the hopelessness, overwhelm. Yeah, it just keeps it going, right? Like if you were to think about like,
it just furthers the pity party. And then you get to be right about being wrong and being bad. And then that feels good. And then that feeling is addictive.
Yeah.
I'm just being like, yeah, no, I do get to be this piece of garbage.
I use this example. I asked some of my clients this. I'm like, okay, have you ever been in a support group on Facebook? And it's like a competition of whose life sucks the most. Yeah. And it's like, nobody is the winner. Like even the winner is the loser here. Like, why is this all like a competition of like just a sad fest, And it's like, that is all valid feeling. But if we always stay expressing the feeling and it prevents us from thinking of the process to change what caused that feeling, then we're choosing to sign ourselves up for the same thing. I should have expected this. We do attract that outcome. Mm-hmm. Okay. People can attribute luck to what's actually privilege. Yeah. I've spent years in my 20s and 30s saying I'm going to make blank amount of money one day. Then I made blank amount of money and stayed there for years. It wasn't until Law of Attraction that I realized what I'd done. I changed my internal thoughts and my salary has been climbing since.
Yay.
Absolutely. The only difference between like someone who gets a raise and someone who doesn't get a raise is the person who asks for a raise if it wasn't time for a raise, right? I mean, taking away if they actually give it to you or not, but it's not a stalemate. Yeah. It definitely relates to the trying it, but it making the accomplishments too extreme and then not actually doing anything to make them happen. That's the super hard part, that and believing what I'm saying. So this is helpful. I had written this down here is if you break it down into baby steps is the foundation for everything that not that we want to change necessarily, but even that we want to learn, is especially for us neurodivergents, like it has to be baby steps. So if you have big goals, I was just talking to someone about this today. If you have big goals, I know it sounds cheesy, make a dream board. I know I cringe saying it, and I don't even know why I do, because I've crossed off a lot of stuff over the years off that board, but it feels weird, but whatever. No one's going to charge you to do it, right? So make a dream board, put the big goals on the dream board, because it'll be easier to rationalize that as a dream than to think that you're expected tomorrow to go out and start making that a reality, which is a lot more daunting than being able to file it away as a dream and then focus on the actions that you're doing right now that are like not helping you. If you reverse engineer it that way, you're not going to get hung up on like, but how will I get there? You know how much stuff has fallen together in the last few years that I did not see coming? Good and bad. Good and bad. I think there's like something about having to have both. But
yeah, it's yin and yang.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I guess there is something. It's been around forever, but
maybe something about it.
Let's see. We are genetically wired to have a certain amount of positivity and others have to try harder. Yeah. Oh, I love that as a concept. It's really difficult because if we're not set up in that way, which I'm not, I mean, I guess I don't share too much about my childhood, but I'm that person who at parties wouldn't understand that something was just too intense to share, and everyone would stare at me like, because like I look like someone that grew up normal and I wasn't. So, like, I think that when it comes to what we're programmed to believe in our day to day, if we were raised with the thought of not really ever having security, and that's just to put it mildly with the trauma that I've heard since doing this, like we're programmed to feel safe however we have had to feel safe in the past. So if you've had to protect yourself from outrageous things or guard yourself, you weren't nurtured through things, whatever the case may be, that's what you're going to do internally now with your own verbiage. So toxic positivity gets me. I saw someone on Instagram say, don't say you're chronically ill, then you're claiming that you're always going to be sick, so you will be. So I was terrified to think certain things because I was going to manifest bad things. I think that's a fine line, because I think it is an issue of, like, for example, the next thing I was going to say is we start with trying to pinpoint one change in your verbiage. And that is, if someone said, I want it to be, they're going to a park tomorrow, they're planning a whole outing to a park, they would say, I hope it doesn't rain. They wouldn't say, I hope it's sunny and nice out. And we kind of go about, it's not intentional, but we speak in ways that we think we're preventing what we don't want, but we're actually stating what it is that we don't want, Now, I don't believe in censoring how people speak about their own illnesses and bodies and anything really. Like, so I hate those comments where people are like, you should say this, not that. Like, who are you? My principal? No, but I do think that if something resonated with you where you're like, that does feel kind of like not something I'd want to carry, then find your own phrase that gives you power for it. Just like maybe that person who put the post up says chronically ill does give them that power. They do embody that. If it doesn't align with you, find one that does. Doesn't have to make sense to anybody who's not in your body experiencing it, but I think the problem there is the fear of, oh my God, I did myself in. Because no, you have the power to change how you go forward right now from this immediate second forward. I don't know what we've attracted and what we've not attracted. Trust me when I tell you, I got the roster for bad stuff that I could have attracted. It's up there. So I'd be in the same like drats club as you are if that were the case. All we can do is go forward from that, as hard as that is. Accepting reality. Exactly. Like chronically ill, but like I'm still doing well. Like the fact that like I use chronically ill, you know, or I got a lot of chronic illnesses and stuff that I say chronic illnesses I manage, chronic illnesses I deal with, you know, it's don't let someone else put their emphasis in your verbiage either. So The How of Happiness is a great book. Oh, it sounds like a really lovely book. Thank you for the recommendation. All right, we always love a good book rec. And I love it when there's lots of research to it. I love tying together the physical steps with the emotional process. Like, so interesting. A few wild stories about manifesting things. Oh, I'm gonna get there, trust me. I'm just gonna skip through some of these for the sake of time. Remember what you taught me, manifesting instead of what I was manifesting of what I was doing, which was the exact opposite, which was if I don't worry enough about this, it'll go wrong. So my question I actually have written down here is what's the fear in being optimistic? If you were to think of, okay, tomorrow I'm not going to believe the worst can happen, if that were at all possible. But if you said that to yourself, you're like, poof, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm not worried anymore. What is the fear in that? What do you think? What would it be for you?
I think, I don't know if this is an everywhere thing, but being from the Northeast, specifically like New York, New Jersey, like there's this feeling of like, nobody's going to pull the wool over my eyes. Like you're not going to get a fast one on me. So it just kind of feels like, oh, I would be getting pulled a fast one. Or if I'm outwardly positive and I tell anybody any of this, they're going to think I'm a jackass when none of it comes true. It's just probably just looking like an idiot to anybody, including myself.
Yeah. Like, how dare you?
Right. Dummy.
Like, how could you fall for that? Right.
That really? You're going to believe that? The sky gods are going to grant you wishes?
Who are you to think you could do that?
Right.
I have a friend whose daughter died on Friday. I'm sorry. And it's her last few days. She cross-stitched this little sign that said, "This is terrible. Keep going." Oh my God.
Oh, it's so sad.
This is terrible. Keep going. Sounds like the most, like, I don't know why that feels like a beautiful thing to say to somebody in that space because it's so real. Ugh. And it's not just trying to like this will be all over soon, you know, like, oh my God. Reminds me of the quote, "You've gotten through 100% of your bad days." That's for sure. Dream boards, made one in college. Yes, absolutely. I'm totally a visual person as well. Like I love the idea of like creating it in front of me, you know, and no, kind of like going with the fact that it's destined to be silly anyway, even though it comes true, you know, setting expectations too high and being disappointed, being let down. It's a Massachusetts thing too. It's good to know. That's the quote, "Keep your expectations low and no one will disappoint you." Yeah. I have, Oh, did it scroll back up?
No.
Oh, there were more added here.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's like updating the chat as I was reading it. Yeah.
It did scroll back up. Maybe?
No.
Oh.
I think it added because it updated the thread.
Got it. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Just
Hi.
heck. Challenged.
Just figuring it out. I'm trying to
I always was like, why am I so special that bad things shouldn't happen to me? So the thought of being prepared is like, okay, you got to always be thinking worst case. It makes sense, but if you break it down, does it make sense? Because if you are living in a moment that there is no emergency.
I used to operate from the same place.
Yeah, truly, like waiting for the other shoe to drop at all times. So I think that's just your emergency response system. But if you look at it as in that moment, talk back to that thought, like really like map it out, write it out. Sometimes it helps so that it's not just all up in here where you have to worry about arguing with yourself. Like get it on paper as if you're writing an argument, right? And write out the logic of like, okay, well, if nobody else, like if there isn't an emergent situation, if I have done well on paper, I have completed what I have to complete. Nobody that I know of is actually mad at me. I want to go and do this thing and I don't see an obstacle or anything. Can I be good at it if I am overly prepared? If I'm overly prepared for a situation that potentially doesn't exist, will it distract me from actually doing what it is I want to do with clear eyes? Like it's all it is misplacing your energy. It's not changing anything factual. It's not protecting anything. All it is misplacing your energy. That's all, you know? For me, it's that being positive and optimistic about my future is something that I've been wanting to do and trying to do for years. So now it's put on a pedestal, like the thing that will get me where I need to be. But if I do that and I still don't succeed, then I'll be out of options and feel extra hopeless. If you change how you view yourself, there is no way to not succeed, because if one method of getting to what you consider success doesn't work, it doesn't make you somebody who's incapable of success. If you truly get to a place of liking yourself, of having your back, of being your hype man, of just going after that, right? It sounds like a pipe dream, but it takes so much work when you have decades that tell you the opposite. It does take so much time and so much effort and work. But if you do that truly, there is no way that you can fail. Like, not if you're in the same body and situation that you are today. The thing that's going to keep you back from failing, like, who knows that a different opportunity doesn't come your way and give you everything you want because you've made yourself open for that opportunity. Who says that being open to that doesn't lead you to learn a new craft of some kind? Or I don't know, who knows who we meet, where we go. When we assume that we'll never go and we'll never meet and we'll never do better, we absolutely do that then. But at the very least, if you're either going to live a life of not believing in it and being regretful one day, or you're going to live a life of believing in yourself and having experiences, which option at the end of it all would you be happy to have taken? If the traditional idea of success is something that evades you now. You know, it's hard to be big picture when you're literally used to surviving the day to day, but it's ironically what pulls you out of that too. For me, it's that, oh, I read it. Okay. Best thing that you did was when I had that complaint filed against me, I would typically have worried to an unhealthy point, and you made me manifest that it would all go fine. And I did. And I was way less stressed. Yeah, I remember that, because we were like, we're waiting for a verdict, right? Like, so let's try to get you to not torture yourself in the meantime, you know, like, because you're either going to know you're in trouble or you're not. So what's the sense in living days like in purgatory on the way, like for no reason? It's not going to fix or help. And I love that you remember that, because I remember how seriously you take your work and how much you hate people not representing you in the right light. And I get it. But why let your thermostat, change your thermostat for something that you have no control of at the end of the day, how it will go. So bravo.
Yay.
All right. So I'm going to give you guys one big law of attraction story that's kind of crazy. And then I'm going to give you guys a little challenge and we'll be done. So law of attraction story. I'm trying to think. So there's two. One that's shorter, I'll go with first. So something I like to have my clients do when they're getting used to this as a concept is to start imagining that they're capable of it. So we figure out one random thing to attract, completely random. Like, think of something so minuscule and outlandish and specific that you don't even know what you're attracting. For example, this client thought she was going to stump me, and she's like, I want to see a butterfly. And it was like the dead of winter, and she lived somewhere where there's like 4 feet of snow on the ground at all times. And she's like, I'm going to see a butterfly. Like, she was so excited that she was going to really get me. And I'm like, okay, so now what you're going to do is you are going to thoroughly believe you're going to see this you're going to ask yourself, where's the butterfly? Like, where is it? When am I going to see it? You're not going to say to yourself, oh, don't worry, you'll see it. You're literally going to actively pursue finding this butterfly. And when you do, tell me. A few days later, she sends me a picture. She's at a bank and there's someone standing in front of her little kid, and they have this big butterfly backpack on, standing right in front of them. And she sends me a picture. And I was like, I told you so. You thought you were being smart, huh? Another client I had do that. She goes, I want to hear lots of cars honking, like it's a city. And she lives in like the middle of nowhere, right? Where it's like, that doesn't happen. And the next day, no, I'm sorry, not the next day. It was like, I want to say it was a good week or two, because I really had to like talk her into that. She's like, physically how will this happen? Someone crashed into a tree in the front of her property, and the horn was stuck and it wouldn't stop.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
She
That's a good one.
was annoyed that she wished for that one, or she affirmed that one, because she's like, why did I do this? Like, I have to listen to this now. But who'd have thunk it, right? My crazy story. Do you remember Robin, the trailer?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I had a client who was affirming that she was going to, she's like, she kind of wanted to play around because she didn't fully believe it, but she wanted to set like a monetary affirmation. I talked her against it, but okay, whatever. I said, how much do you want to attract? She goes, $5,000 would be like life-changing for us right now. It would really get us set up. She was living in a shelter with her kids at that time. So, she said 5,000 would be able to get us somewhere, get us security, be able to pay security somewhere and like get on our feet. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. So she was drawing she'd draw like $1,000 bill, and she'd draw 5 of them on the top of her notebook. She would write it like, I'm so happy and excited to have $5,000, like to be able to change my life with $5,000, blah, blah, blah. So she gets a call from somebody from her family, and they go, Aunt so-and-so died. There was like a inheritance proceeding that she didn't think she was going to get absolutely anything. Like, she really didn't think they would have called her for inheritance. And they're like, so you were left some money, you and the kids. Guess how much it was? $5,000. Literally, like, if I ever talk about law of attraction in my posts, Robin's still like a Facebook friend of mine. She will probably comment because she still can't believe it. And this is in the very beginning of me doing this. So that's not it. In addition to the $5,000, she also was affirming a safe place for her and her kids to live, and it just be their own, to have privacy, to have their own 4 walls, basically. And a few weeks after she gets the phone call, she gets a call from a friend who says, hey, I know somebody, I know you've been looking for a place. I have somebody who's selling their trailer and they need to get out, ASAP or whatever. They had to relocate, death in the family, blah, blah, blah. Are you interested? It's all updated. It's gorgeous. And it's very cheap because they got to go, and told them the price per month. And it was like $4,500 and change. So I don't know how to explain that. I don't know. It actually happened. And weird things like that happen. Like,
yeah.
Have you ever had a fun?
Yeah.
Give me a fun one.
Yeah. So I stole one of Michelle's back in the day, and I still affirm it today. And it's money comes to me frequently and easily. And when I actually finally started believing it, I was in a random parking lot in Woodbridge, New Jersey with my ex-boyfriend, and we went into a store, and I had looked down at the ground before I went in. There was nothing that I noticed. I still have a picture of it. I think it's on my Facebook, way buried though. And then we come out of the store 20 minutes later, and there was literally about 100 pennies on the ground by my car door. And I was like, wow. And I just affirmed it that morning, and I was like, wow, that's crazy.
You know what I think is interesting? Would the client have noticed the butterfly backpack? Would you have noticed the pennies? That's why I always say,
So
like the mysticism of it also meets the like
focusing.
Awareness factor
Yeah.
of making you realize like the things we don't pay attention to, or that can happen. I do think it's the mysticism too, because some crazy stuff happens that I also can't explain.
I think so. Another example would be affirming for 6 years myself. Here, I've affirmed this for 6 years almost daily until it came true. I work from home full time on my own business, and I thought it was going to be like 3 other things before it was my actual business. But in terms of awareness, it opened me up to saying yes to a lot more things that I might not have said yes to in pursuit of not having to go to a friggin' office ever again.
There you go.
So,
another weird one. Any of the times that I have had issues with my weight have been when it is something in my vocabulary, in my thoughts, in my mind, at anything throughout the day. I'm literally just explaining it. I promise you, I know that this sounds really annoying, condescending, whatever. I'm not trying to be like that guy that's like, just think about it. But after the pandemic, when I was really struggling with the imposter syndrome of allowing, quote unquote, the stress to make my symptoms come back, you know, to not fit in my clothes, to like be like, what is the skin? Where's my hair? You know, like again, after doing this for years and saying I can help people. I mean, who expected a freaking pandemic, right? But like I really took that hard because I'm like, I can't help people. Like I can't even help myself. And it just continued to compound and get worse. And then I was like, I'm doing everything else that I was told I should be doing. Like not told, I told myself, I figured the whole thing out, but like I'm doing everything that I know works for me. Like, and I feel like it's doing something, I guess, you know, like I'm not as exhausted, but the difference was that weight wasn't, it's not like I walked around feeling like I'm fit and trim every day. Like I just didn't think about it. I just didn't think about my weight. And historically, whenever that has happened is when I've returned back to like, this is basically my baseline weight. Like this is where my body's comfy. And it's not the first time. Each and every time when I start nitpicking myself a little more, it gets worse. When I just go, I don't need to even think of that because whatever I look like, it's not going to alter my experience in this world. And sure enough, like, oh my God, have you lost weight? I hate that statement. So, but they happen more the less I think about it. And I don't know how to explain that because that will be while doing physical things. I have been doing the same, you know? I mean, I guess stress also has to do with that too. But let's see. We got a comment I'm reading here. It's a private direct message. And if someone's family is listening, I don't know if I want to read it out loud. So I'm going to read it and then I'll just say my spiel. Okay. Oh, I can read it out loud. Okay, cool. So my husband used to be obsessed with the Bill O'Reilly. Orally. I'm like Bill O'Reilly. Sorry guys, risky. He watched it religiously and wanted to be on it, so he wrote an email for their Ask the Audience segment about some hot topic, and he labeled it still writing. And the message subject said, I've been writing for months and you won't put on the damn TV. After he did that, he kept saying, I'm going to be on the O'Reilly Factor next week. We need to make sure to be at home Thursday at 6 p.m. so we can watch it, etc. We're watching it, and he continues to say it over and over again. And then there it was. We have a letter coming in from Troy Transow. Oh my God. So cool. That is so cool.
I love that.
Yeah. Little messages all around. And again, whether it's you wouldn't see the pen, you saw the pennies and you wouldn't before, whether it's you've attracted the pennies. At the end of the day, the pennies are there and you know they're there now. So you could look for that kind of stuff.
And I don't know. When it came down to it, when that happened, I was like, sure, it's not the riches that I was hoping for when I said money and comes to me. And I'm telling you, this sounds so cheesy and corny that I got a random $20 deposit in my account, and I got an email from my bank, which I normally never get, and it was a true email, and it said, a deposit of $20 has cleared, $20.80. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. I haven't done a return. I swear
to you, the same affirmation, like I have gotten, Nick, and I'm not, I know no one's thinking I'm lying, but I feel weird talking about this. Because I promise I'm not lying.
It feels like a grifter's like,
right, like I'm like, so not that hun that's like just think, believe, achieve, you know. But truly we've gotten letters like you overpaid, here's some money back, you know, or like weird dividends for stuff. I'm like, oh, I'll take it. Again, nothing like I'm not buying a home in Boca about it with it, you know, but like it's literally what I'm saying, you know, it's a literal form of that. Yeah.
I feel like a happier person and more of a joy to be around, focusing on 100 pennies than I was focusing on not the 100 pennies in my checking account.
And I feel like in this insane world, the idea that there could be 100 pennies there makes it a little bit more palatable. So
feels like the universe is taxed.
Awesome. Got a random refund check for $55. I'll take it.
I love that.
I'll take it, you know. I love that. And for the record, he doesn't like Bill O'Reilly anymore. Sorry to anyone who hates him. I literally thought his name was Bill O'Reilly. So I blocked out anything news related from my mind at all. I just know that. So the other day I stressed about spending some money from clients, and I immediately looked in my email and got a $400 settlement payment from Facebook.
I love that.
Oh my God. And from Facebook. Passion on that.
And
So-
that's the other thing, like not go out and spend all your money, but
Right.
like when you spend something for yourself and it's really a no stress thing, I found that the universe is, I feel weird saying that, but like it's been like, here you go. Like
but it could be something small. It could be a body wash or a lotion,
literally like
you know, or it could
razor
be
blades.
it could be you know, like a tickets to a virtual show, like a seminar or something, you know, like it could be whatever the hell you want it to be. But I agree. I think it's like you cement that gift, let's say, or like that positivity, that experience you really liked. It's kind of like cementing that and like rewarding yourself for allowing that to happen.
It's almost like resetting the bar. It's
Yeah.
like I can spend this money. This is where the bar is set. This is where my bar now lives.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
I have a challenge for you guys
Yeah.
to kick off or to finish, I guess, close out the Zoom. The challenge I have for you guys is I want you to practice catching yourself.
Mhm.
My clients have heard me say this, but perfection, a lot of people are like, I've been doing this for years. There's something either to look at further or it needs to keep going, you know, but try to find yourself this week speaking in terms of, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow versus I hope it's sunny tomorrow.
And do 3 burpees. Just kidding.
No,
Don't do burpees.
but I'm like, Vito, no. But yeah, try to catch yourself this week. Before you can quote unquote correct it, you got to first notice it in yourself and be like,
Mhm.
yep. And think, how could I have rephrased it? Like going forward, how do I say this without sounding delusional? Like, how do I say this while still honoring the basic principle of it, which doesn't have to be butterflies and sunshine, pun intended, you know, just pinpoint it. That is going to be eye-opening in and of itself. Okay. So, all right. I hope that this helped. I'm so glad that, you know, we had this chat pop in during this call because those are my favorite, as you know. I love that sound effect.
Thank you. That's what I'm here
But
for.
definitely text me, let me know, you know, if this resonated with you, if you have any questions, and enjoy the rest of your week. Try to change that verbiage.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Thanks for letting me on. You had no choice.